Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 70. Today is Sunday, December 21st, 2014, and I am really excited that you could join me. I'm awfully sorry about how long it took to get the last week's episode up. My internet wasn't working, so it made it much more challenging. And the other thing was that it turned out that I couldn't appropriately post at work because, it keeps on putting an old version of Adobe Flash on, so you can't really use YouTube at work. So, as a result, better late than never. Like, I knew it was going to be delayed, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. The format of today's episode is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'll go through my normal things first, but I decided that since this was the last episode that I was going to record this year, that it'd be a really good chance to do a retrospective of like the stuff I worked on this year, because I know you guys like see the ebb and flow of things, but I don't know, I just thought it would be fun, so I was like running all around the house trying to find like my finished objects that I still had with me. That'll be at the end. And then, what is it? I suppose I could take care of this at the beginning, but starting January 1st, I'm going to be hosting a Something Special Cal. And so the premise of this knit along, spit along, craft along, whatever, is to take something you've been holding on to, waiting until you're worthy, and do it. So likely candidates for me is so using my merino silk that I just finished spinning to knit the Fragile Hearts pattern, or spinning my camel silk, or spinning whatever, something luxurious and special and lovely. So, but it won't be what is it? So I'm really excited about that, and I know a couple of you guys have already posted in the thread about what you're pondering about what to do, and so that's super duper exciting. Hopefully I'll throw up a post figuring out what project I'm going to be starting on January 1st, or if I'm going to be waiting for one of these big projects that I'm working on to finish up. But I'm really excited that you guys are joining in. So this cal is going to start January 1st, so start your project then. And you'll need to finish your project by March 31st. So, woo, the day after my birthday. So that is the story there. I figured a low-key cal would make a lot of sense. Ooh, I totally forgot to weigh this stuff. I'm recording probably much later than I usually would. So I'm like sort of fighting the amount of light left, because today is the shortest day of the year. And for whatever reason, my light switch isn't working in the room right now. So hopefully the lighting isn't too bad. I'm right across from the window, so I think that's really improved lighting a lot. So I'd love to have a little bit of feedback on that, if it is better for the inside recording. It isn't too bad outside, but I'd rather not be outside. It's also gross and it's been gross all week, sort of drizzly and cold and stuff like that. So this is the Moonstone shawl. I am now halfway through I'm halfway through the third repeat of the chart, so it is coming together nicely. So I just finished putting in my beads, and now I'll proceed to sort of build the pattern up again. So it is coming along nicely. Last time it was like 96 grams, so I'll end up putting it on my project page just to keep track of how my yarn usage is going and all that other fun stuff. But it is coming together. I mostly work on it either at knitting or at home, so it doesn't get a whole lot of love. But this is going to be perfect plain knitting, so I'm really, and it'll be really great for when I'm hanging out at home as well. So what is it? So I'm gonna have 4 days off of work next week, so woo, I'm excited. I still have to work on Monday, and I still have to work the week after Christmas. Most of my coworkers took the full 2 weeks off, and I took too much vacation time for that. So I am super duper excited about all this knitting time I'm gonna have. And it tends to be that when it's like stuff with my family, it tends to be a really good time for that. So I'm hoping this gets a lot of love because this will be the perfect sit around talking to people sort of project. It isn't the pick up and put down at any time project. I sort of like to work on it in units of rows, which might be challenging soon. I might need to have a little post-it note on my pattern just to keep track of what row I left off on. But it is coming together nicely, and it's in the bag that Jody made me. So that also makes me happy. Like the nerdy printed circuit board knitting bag. So that is hanging out in there. The other project I'm working on is the Viajante, and this one would have made a lot more sense for me to sit down and weigh it, because that's really the only way I'm going to know how much stuff I get done. This is a really big project. So when I took pictures last week, I posted them on Instagram, and I think they're now on my Ravelry project page. So when I last documented it, I switched it from the smallest needle to the largest needle in my Xiaogu interchangeable set. And this is, whatever, a giant purple blob. And this one, I love carrying this around, because really it's like pick up, put down, read a little bit to figure out where I am, whether I need to decrease that row or just knit past that row, and that is pretty much it. It is super duper mindless. So it is coming together. So what is it? So this is the amount, what is it? So this is the progress from week 1, point to point. This is the progress from week 2, point to point. And this is the progress from, what is it? Week 3. So it's slowing down a little bit. The rows are definitely getting much longer now. But this is like fantastic, like movie knitting. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to do while watching a movie and stuff like that. So this is, what is it? The Viajante pattern by Martina Bem. It is going to be basically a poncho, hood, shawl thingamabobber. And like, so I switched it to the bigger needles last week, and it was definitely the case where like it wasn't like stretched out. It was the right size. But now, since I'm whatever on the biggest needles, aside from putting in like the cable extenders, it still is what is it? Quite large on here. So we're looking at the tube this way. I'm almost to the point where I've decreased away all the stitches as a part of that original triangle. So coming along for sure. So this gets a lot of love, but then you can't really tell very well how much love it's received. But what is it? My cake is definitely hollowing out a bit, if you guys can even really see that. Unfortunately, it is rather dark in the room today. So I'm not like, I don't know whether or not I'll rewind the ball before I start to travel again, because then I'll start pulling from the outside instead of the inside. It might be convenient because it's definitely getting more diffuse as I go. I have no illusions. I'm probably, what was it? So last week I was at 20% of the yarn. I'm definitely not like, what would it be? I'm probably not more than 30%. This is probably going to be a 10% a week sort of project. So it's coming together. It's definitely looking maybe more color appropriate now. Like, we put this up to my black shirt, you can't tell the difference. So today it looks too dark. But it definitely is a blurple sort of color, and it's sort of interesting how it sort of shifts in color. Do a little rearranging and stick that back. So it is coming along. I am knitting it on size 2 needles because I didn't want to, what is it? So you start the triangle part with size 2 needles, and they're supposed to go up once you start in the round. But my knit gauge is really consistent. Like my purl is fairly different than my knit, but if I'm knitting a garter stitch and then I switch to in the round, it's pretty much the same. And I'm enjoying the fabric I'm getting with the twos. And if it isn't quite right, then you just block the living daylights out of it and it's fine. Okay. So, I am spinning away. What is it? I started my 7th row log last night, and obviously I still have a decent chunk of it left to go. Oh, row log. So after I finished the 3rd row log was god awful. The other ones have not been too bad in the grand scheme of things, so I've been pretty happy about that. So this is the chocolate Shetland fleece. It is the spinning project that never ends. There's always more to go. So what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 more of these guys to go. And it's coming along. I'm not sure I'm going to take it with me to Michigan. It is not going to be a project that packs down very well, and so I don't really want it taking up a ton of space in my bag and stuff like that. So I'm probably just going to leave it at home and not have a spinning project with me, but that should be fine. I'm pretty notorious about leaving the spinning projects behind. So that is the story there. So what is it? So once I get halfway through the 8th row log, then I'll be halfway there because I started with 15 and now I'm down to 8 or 7-ish, and it'll go from there. Okie doke. So that is my spinning. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be spinning next. Maybe that'll be the project that I end up starting for the something special Sal, whatever it is. So I do have some stash positions to show. Hopefully, what is it? Other people who are not a part of the Will My Set for All Seasons swap are watching. Or maybe I'll just keep the identity of my swapper a secret. So that'll probably be the easiest way, and then I can add a little thank you on the blog. So I participated in the swap this year, and I ended up getting a very lovely package. So the skein of yarn I ended up receiving was Sammy, and We're Different in the Pure Base. So this is so bright and so happy. I think that this is actually going to become a hitchhiker because it is a 100%, so that tends to be the best one to do for that. So it is super bright and happy. And then I won't mention which skein I ended up sending out. So what I got in addition to that, so I ended up getting a very cute grocery bag, and it turns out that the state of Texas is going to start charging for using bags, so really awesome there. Like, I don't know what the price is, but I normally bring my own grocery bags to the grocery store anyways. I got this really cute pouch that comes from IKEA, and then I got a variety of pretty stationery. So, actually these are Post-it notes, aren't they? This will be really handy. So this is, so these are Vera Bradley Post-it notes, and then a set of forget-me-nots and lists right here in like cool patterns. And these are the 2 pieces of chocolate left. I've sort of ate the rest. It was delicious. And then it all came in this really cute basket. So the basket is, what is it? So this is a blessing basket. So their stick is that they have various women entrepreneurs, and they end up paying them a living wage for their work. Oh, and then there's also the little tape measure as well. So what they do is they end up paying them a living wage for the work, and then they end up posting their story on the website. So the person who made my basket is Azuma Anagadu, there we go, in Ghana. And so it's like really happy and rainbow colored. I'm not sure where I'm going to use it or where I'm going to put it. It has like a nice wrapped leather handle, so it's really a good solid basket. So that was a really sweet and awesome swap. We actually changed the rules a little bit, so it's now strictly the price as opposed to vaguely the highest price tended to be the starting point. So they're a little bit smaller, but that's no big deal. I'm very happy with my little gift, so it will be fun to knit up that skein, because I love Wool My Sew multis, and I hoard them like a dragon. Rawr. So that is the story there. And that is really the only stash position for the week, because really some of my stash left, and some new stash came back, and all is good. So that means that we have made it to the retrospective part of the show. So I just wanted to go through the projects that I'd completed this year and just like show you guys what sort of like passed. And I suppose, how am I going to do this? I'll go through the knitting, I'll go through the weaving, and then I will go through what spinning still remains here. Okay, so what I have on right now are the mitts that I ended up making. I knit one of these pretty much in a single day. So these are based like roughly on, the narrowed fingerless glove pattern, in addition to the fingers are sort of from the knotty gloves. And these just live in the pockets of my jacket at all times. So they have this cool cable pattern, which I stole from some variation on the featherweight that I had knit before. And the left mitt is not the same as the right mitt, but excuse me, whatever, such is life. Can't do too much about that. They are out of, so I believe my Ravelry project is Rock the Casbah, because it's the Casbah base from Handmaiden. So they're MCN, and they're really lovely. They're not gonna look, they're sort of fuzzing a little bit from wear, but that's the sort of thing you expect from some cashmere blend. They're just not going to look perfect forever. Like my socks, they look a little bit roughed up from normal use, but they are super soft and lovely. So such is the way of, of MCN. So, what else? I'll just go off the top of the pile and go from there. So, I knit 3 pairs of socks this year. 2 of them are somewhat damp sitting next to me, so. But this is the grandpa socks that I recently finished knitting, and these will be going to their new home for Christmas, since my grandpa really loves socks. These are Wool My Sew socks out of 3 different colorways. And the pattern is roughly based on Cranberry Biscotti, except I screwed it up and didn't include enough plain rose. But I had my ever generous foot model put them on because I hadn't taken an FO picture yet. So I still need to post in like the various groups and places about knitting them up. And I was just sort of holding off and waiting on that. But these will be going to a new home soon. Let's see. Now, the man socks for my lovely foot model were actually these, and hopefully, I don't know, they're probably a little bit funny looking because they're still damp. I did a big sock washing the other day, but these are the lizard socks I knit for my husband, the Dear Sweet Lovable one. They are knit out of Piedmont Wildfoot, something like that. It's a local dyer to the San Francisco Bay Area. And then the black is Kretzer on your toes. And it's actually holding up fairly well so far. They haven't been washed too many times. But this is the Maritz pattern by Stephanie Vanderlinden. Probably should be one of my goals to knit more Stephanie Vanderlinden patterns because they are really quite lovely. So it has the adorable lizard on the bottom of the foot and an adorable lizard hanging out on the heel. And these ones, my husband would really love to have fingerless mitts in this pattern, but I'm still not ready for that yet. But that was pair of socks number 2. I guess I'm going in reverse order that I had knit them in. I'll just put those back there. And then the other ones I did, these are, what is it? The pattern is called Just Ribbing, and this is actually my own hand spun. These are, I just couldn't resist making socks for myself out of, like, I finished spinning the yarn and then I immediately cast these on. They are definitely starting to felt, but that isn't really a big deal because that's probably making them tougher and that sort of thing. But I, like, always gravitate towards wearing these. It's just so cool to knit, to wear hand-spun socks. I'm so happy. So this is from my Fat Cat Knits variegated BFL, and I talked and talked and talked about spinning this and then knitting this and all that other fun stuff. But these were the only pair of socks I made for myself this year. I've been sort of dialing back on knitting socks for myself because I just had so many pairs. But as I destroy them, I'm going to start replacing them, and it looks like I'm pretty close to destroying some now. So finally, at last, I can end this sock moratorium. But that's that. And just put them all on one side. Okay. So I would say that this year was definitely the year of the shawl for me. I knit a lot of shawls, more than usual, I think. And probably the most devastating of them all was the Nuvum. Oh my goodness gracious. Talk about a massive frickin' shawl. Like, I can't even show it to you all at once on the camera just because it's that ridiculously big. So, this is the Woolmeise Blankie to end Woolmeise Blankies. I probably should take this with me to Michigan because it's just so ridiculous and warm. I haven't even, like, worn it really out yet this year. I've had other ones that have been higher on the list, but which is sort of crazy making because I spent all that time and busted butt to knit this for Stash Dash this year. But such is life. So Nuvum, the biggest of them all. But the other one I also knit for Stash Dash was the Strand Wanderer. And this took, so whereas the Nuvum took the whole 300 grams, this one only took, what is it, probably half, because this was what I knit for the Woolmeise for All Season swap. So this is probably Ann Culton Polar Dark in lace, and it is also ridiculously long. And I throw this on. I've been wearing this one because it's just fun with its crazy long ends. So this was for the Woolmeise for All Seasons lace swap. And I don't know, it's just a really cool planned pooling sort of thing. Manipulating the stitch count in order to get different styles of pooling. So that was a cool one. And this was by, what, Leah Victoria? Alright. Woolmeise shawl number 3. And apparently this was the sickness, because this is, what is it, Walk on the Moon, in Chim Chim Chimney, ORH negative, and Pistazi. This is the crux side, right? So this one is a lot of fun, and I can wear it many ways, but whatever. I guess I'm demonstrating them all pretty much in the same way. So this is a pattern from Arlene's World of Lace, and it is fun and sort of crayon boxy, which is what I enjoy. And this one was, whatever, it was probably 2/3. No, it was less than that. This was probably, what, 120 grams of Woolmeise? The other one I think had to be 150 or less, or 150 or more. And then for whatever reason, I was searching and searching and searching, couldn't find it, so I hope I didn't lose it. But I did have a Woolmisa shawl, which, the Frangipani shawl, which I had just finished. So apparently, I only knit Woolmisa shawls this year too. I guess I'm breaking that up a little bit, but the Frangipani pattern, which I had just finished, so it might be sitting in the car somewhere. I'm not sure, but I definitely want to find it. Who knows? I may have left it hanging up at work. I'm not sure. But that is a Kim and Figueroa pattern. I had the pattern for years, and I finally got around to knitting it. So that wraps up the shawls. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it isn't like these were small shawls at all. Great big massive shawls this year. In terms of sweaters, I knit 2. So the first one, or what is it? This is, I think I finished this one first, even though I started it second. This is the Wild Apples Bohus, which is a Kirsten Olsen pattern from the, oh, what is it? The Bohus book, Knitting in Color, or something like that. So this is the Bohus. This was my Ravel Lennox project. I didn't finish it in time, but I think I did finish it in time for Emily of What Just Watchin's Cal. And this is, so I ended up doing tipping in teal, and it's eben, and a whole bunch of other Woolmisa colors. There's a little bit of Madeline Tosh lace, which I held doubled. It's definitely fuzzing a little bit, but that sort of gives it more of a bohusy look anyways. And this one hasn't seen too much wear this year, but I'm sure as the winter progresses it'll see a bit more. The other sweater I did was the Halalea. The Halalea is by Mel of the, what is it? Well, now she's the With Mel podcast. And then the yarn is from Stacy of Mustache Yarn, so I get so many compliments on this sweater. I don't tend to wear it too much. I need to buy some shirts which go with it better. For whatever reason, like when I bought this color, I probably would have bought the bright, ridiculous blue, and that would have went with more of my things. Really what I needed is the neutral sweater, but I haven't yet knit the neutral sweater. So I was hoping when I bought this color that it would be more neutral, but it turns out it's more of a robin's egg blue and purple, so it doesn't get as much love as it should, but I should pick up some shirts this year, which end up covering that. And that is it for sweaters. I did 2 weaving projects this year. The one that I actually warped up Christmas Day last year is the Stella scarf. So this is using blue curacao as the warp, and then Stella Polaris as the weft. And this is just freaking gorgeousness. And then I ended up basically warping across the bed. So it is actually a pretty short little scarf. But, such is life. It keeps your neck warm, so that's the big thing. And this was my first weaving project. I had woven a little bit because, like, way back when my sister got a weaving kit. Whatever, a simple rigid-headed loom. This is, the loom I ended up using was actually a 2-harness loom that belonged to my husband's great-grandmother. And so I returned the loom back to my mother-in-law because that is pretty special to her. But it is, and it has little tassels, and it's good fun. Then I have my fail weaving project. I'm using it as a hand towel now, but it's, I used my first lace weight hand spun as the warp, and then I used a the Regia hand dye effect as the weft. I was hoping that the weft would end up setting up the softness, but that was totally a lie. So this scarf is pretty awful, but I did it for the Stash Dash. I don't think I even made the yardage requirement for Stash Dash. I failed. I was a Stash Dash failure. Maybe it had something to do with moving to a new state. But, yeah, so there that is. I probably have a lot to learn. I think the big thing is that it was more of a spinning fail than a weaving fail. In terms of weaving, it was perfectly fine. And for the parts where, so you have like the stripe in there, and that's where I put in the Regia as as the warp. It would have been a perfectly serviceable scarf had I used only the Regia instead of throwing in my janky hand spun. But, what can you do? Such is life. Alright, so now, those were all of my knitting and weaving projects, and so I'll show you what spinning I have. I ended up spinning 2 skeins for my mother-in-law this year, so she has those. Hopefully, she'll be working with them soon. She just finished this absolutely amazing baby blanket for her great niece. And she's been working on that she worked on that pretty much nonstop from May until Thanksgiving. And so she finally ended up giving it to them. So she's in for some long overdue me knitting. But these are the the skeins I have so far from the Chocolate Shetland Fleece. So each one is about 2 ounces, and they're all about the same yardage, and I have no clue which ones I did earlier, but so this is about 10 ounces of spinning so far for, I probably need 32 ounces total spun before the end. And this is how many I have so far for this sweater spin I'm working on. So here they all are. They're really dark, and because it is so dark in this room right now, I don't think you can really see the texture of them. They're all about an aran weight, and I'm probably going to have to rearrange them. I need to have my Flash the Stash photo shoot, which I'll probably be doing New Year's Day. But there are all the skeins so far. One of them I'd spun back last October. But, one of them I had spun last October, but whatever. This is what I have so far. So this is the goal, is eventually I'll have enough for a sweater. And then I have 3 other skeins to show. So I have the mystery merino that I ended up getting with my Turkish, and this was the first skein I spun on my Turkish, so it's pink and lovely. I have my Nest Superwash merino, and this was just absolutely a joy and amazing to spin. And this is in the Primavera colorway, and it's about a fingering. This is 4 ounces, and this one is only 50 grams. And then I have my most latest spin, which is the Redfish Dyeworks Superwash Merino, or Superfine Merino, and Silk 50/50 blend. And so this is what will probably be thrown on the needles pretty soon. Obviously I have 2 more projects to finish for next year, but but that is the story there. So I am beyond proud of these skeins. Like, oh my gosh, I have really broke through in my spinning this year, and these 3 skeins like really show it off that I am increasing in skill and experience and really able to make some beautiful, beautiful yarn. So I am really excited about those, and really excited about continuing to grow in my spinning. I certainly have enough fiber lying around. I have plenty of opportunities to learn. But that, so I did have some other spinning projects, so I spun 2 braids of fiber for my mother-in-law, and those ended up getting shipped off. This was the other spinning project, which is now socks. I ended up giving all the leftovers, because that was a 6-ounce spinning project. I gave the leftovers to Joyity, so she is, I'm not sure what she's making with those. I think she had to use different colors for toe and heel, but she was having a bad day, so she needed some hand spun. And I don't know. I think that's everything. So it was a pretty awesome year. Won't lie. I probably didn't do as much as probably I had done in years past, but such is life. What can you do about it? Full-time job really cramps your style. But hopefully this retrospective was like helpful and interesting, because it's whatever. Sometimes you're like, oh yay, finished chapter, too raw. But it can be whatever, interesting to see whatever how you learn and grow throughout the year, because it's always important to continue to whatever, challenge yourself and stuff like that. So at the moment I don't really have any New Year's resolutions. Like, if I feel like I need to make a change, I make it right away as opposed to waiting a year. But what is it? I think, what was it? Last year I really wanted to finish my sweater spin, and it turned out that I needed to be a bit more strategic about how I went about doing that, because it just turns out that it's sort of annoying to be spinning the fleece, because I didn't really do a great job of picking it through and that sort of thing. And then I'm a little bit concerned about whether or not I even have enough to make an entire sweater. So we'll see how it goes from there. Like, maybe it only turns out that I need 24 ounces in order to make a coat-like sweater for me, but we shall see. So it would be really nice to see that project come to a close, because what is it? What other intentions do I have? I do want to knit a neutral sweater for myself, because then I can wear it an awful lot. If I can wear it an awful lot, because it'll go with my clothes that I wear to work and wear every day and that sort of thing. And I probably have a decent amount of spinning goals, since I'm still trying to learn and grow and that sort of thing. So, whatever. We'll see how that evolves as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will be recording again, likely the 4th of January. I'm going to be taking a week break for Christmas. There just isn't any way that I can record next week. I'm going to be a little bit too busy. But I do want to wish you all a very happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. And thanks again for making this like a really great year. And I hope next year is even better. So with that, see you guys again in the new year. Take care. Bye-bye.